first season of 911 Lone Star was incredibly well received, and season 2 has just started airing. Has this project taken new meaning after everything that's happened over the past year?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, the fact that we can even, work is, it's unbelievable. We were I believe we were the first scripted drama to get announced for a pickup during the pandemic. And then we were one of the very first shows to go back into production. So it really showed us that people really loved the show, and that obviously the studio has a lot of faith in us. And we were even able to go back to work. I think that's the biggest thing, is, they've made it work. Everybody, knock on wood, has been safe. And season 2 is off to a super hot start. I think we're the number 2 show on television right now. We're only behind our mothership, which is pretty cool. It's very much a 911 domination happening right now. So it's a really crazy place to be in. But yeah, this season, it's only gotten bigger, and they didn't let the pandemic hold them back. They stayed very true to the show. The emergencies are bigger, the drama is bigger, and we can finally dive deeper into our characters, because we have so many of them.
Yeah, you've got a really interesting process when it comes to playing TK and learning about kind of the different characters and their story arcs as you're watching the show as it airs. Has that always been your process as an actor? How did that develop?
The process is always sort of similar. It obviously depends on, sort of what the tone of the show is, but with TK, he's just, he's a very layered character, and he wears his heart on his sleeve, and his priorities are very clear. It's family over everything. But then again, when we first meet TK, he's dealing with heartbreak. I mean, he almost literally commits suicide. So there was a lot to play with there. But the overall sort of, developing him as a character, and it all comes down to basics. It's like, what does he want? What are his priorities? What does he care about? What keeps him motivated? So all of that was very clear, and the writers were very generous with providing me with information about him.
911 was recently nominated for a GLAAD award for outstanding drama. What
Yes.
has it meant to you to be a part of a project that's pushing these inclusive storylines?
It's it might be the greatest thing about this show and this universe. It's because we could have just made another big action show. That's not that hard to do. I think it was much more challenging and much more risky to portray the characters that we do portray, and not really knowing how the audience or society might react to it. And I think that's why our leader is Ryan Murphy, because he doesn't really care about that, and he finds it way more important to portray people the way they are, and people that are actually out there. A lot of them are actually watching the show, and he feels it's way more important to be inclusive and be diverse, because that is the world that we live in, and that very much is our audience. And luckily, audience and critics have reacted very generously to the show, and we do it in an honest and authentic way, and I think that's also one of the most important things about it. So it's and now to be nominated for a GLAAD award, I still am not really, I haven't wrapped my head around it. It's such a prestigious thing to be a part of, and Ryan Murphy just set a record of having 6 shows nominated. So it's unbelievable. It really is. It's unbelievable, and it just adds one more level to, what we're doing is so important, and it's being received, which is always great, to know that the work is actually being received by people.
Yeah, and there's so many incredible relationships on the show. Which of TK's relationships has been your favorite to explore, and has that changed from season one heading into season two?
I think I'm going to be biased and just say Tarlos. I think the sort of journey that TK and Carlos are on is so beautiful, and it feels real. You know, it feels like all the stages of like a new relationship. You know, season one was very much the honeymoon phase, and you know, you're a little uncertain. You don't know if this is the real thing or not. And then season two, we're very much a couple. We're very domesticated. And you know, now we are going into dangerous territory of me meeting his parents and seeing that whole dynamic. And they literally just released the promo for episode 4 that tells you a lot about what happens when TK meets his parents. It doesn't go very smoothly. So yeah, it's my favorite relationship to explore, and working with Raphael is such a blessing. He's such a just generous, beautifully open actor. And I think that's why people have grasped onto that relationship, because, you know, you could really see the chemistry on screen, and you could see our comfort level on screen. And there's just a lot of trust when it comes to that kind of relationship. And I think it's, you know, it only really works if there's trust between the actors and comfort between the actors. And, you know, luckily we've had that.
TK himself has had an incredible arc throughout the series. What's ahead for him? What can you tease?
Oof, there is a gigantic, the way I've been saying it without giving a lot away is that we are about to enter a major new chapter in TK's life, a major new chapter. And it's going to affect the people around him. It's definitely going to affect his relationship with his dad. I'm not going to say if it's positive or negative, but it's a major chapter in his life. And we should see it in episode 6. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but whatever.
That's a great teaser. You've had an incredible 2020 with fantastic performances in 911 Lone Star, Smiley Face Killers, No Escape. What is your process like when you're deciding what projects you want to be a part of? And like, is there a moment that it kind of like clicks in your head that you've got a winner in your hand?
You know, I'm not gonna toot my own horn and be like, you know, I said yes to this script and I said no to this script. I'm in a place in my career where I've just been lucky enough to audition for projects that are great. And they've been, you know, generous enough to want me to even play them. I've just been lucky. The thing that I think that I'm most proud of my career is the variety of characters. That's sort of something I've always strived for. And, you know, the people that I look up to rarely play the same character twice. So I'm just been very fortunate in the way roles have landed in my career. And it's just, I mean, it's so crazy that all 3 of those characters came out last year in a time that was filled with so much negativity and just, it was a miserable year. I'm just beyond grateful that, you know, my work was able to be seen by people. And, you know, fortunately enough, I know a lot of people use my work as a form of escape and sort of, you know, enjoy themselves for at least an hour and a half or an hour. So that sort of is the greatest thing you could ask for as an actor. And, you know, I've had people from all over the planet reach out and be like, your movies or your show has literally kept me going and has, you know, provided some sort of happiness in this miserable time that we're in. So that's the greatest review compliment I could ever ask for. So it's just been I've been very lucky.
Yeah, speaking of that versatility, what's left on your bucket list?
So much. I feel like I haven't even scratched at the surface. I've always had big aspirations. I'm somewhat of a big dreamer. I think the next step in the near future is producing. I think the ultimate goal is to direct. I have a story in the back of my head that I hope to adapt into a film that I get to direct. And then, you know, just continuing to do, you know, work that I think is important and resonates with people, whether it's in television or film. That doesn't really matter to me, as long as the product is good and as long as the material is good. And then obviously, top of my bucket list is to work with some of my heroes, you know, whether it's directors or actors. So I'm going to keep pushing to get there.
Important work. In addition to the kind of the incredible work that you're doing on screen, you're also an ambassador for the Ocean Cleanup and Project Zero. How did you get involved with those organizations?
You know, a big part of that, I have to give ultimate props to my publicist at Imprint. When I first met them, it was right before Lone Star premiered. And I was very clear with my sort of mission and my goals as an actor. And I said, I want to coincide my career with trying to save the planet. And that means working with amazing companies, working with amazing organizations that are actually doing something for the planet, for animals, and for obviously humans. And they were completely on board, and they made sure that that started happening as soon as we started working together. So a lot of the organizations that I'm working with now, it's, you know, it's because they introduced me to them and they reached out and were like, listen, we have a super passionate actor who cares about the planet and wants to make that his thing. And they've made it happen. And, you know, these organizations are unbelievable, and the stuff that they're doing is actually going to change the world. So I've just been in complete awe in the opportunities that they've been able to get for me.